Hi guys. Right. Just gonna wait for a few people to join. Hi, Kat. So my thought for my first live stream was I know a lot of people are super interested in like the true crime world to do um true crime conspiracy theories. So I have a list of true crime conspiracy theories that I want to share with you guys. So I figured I'm sure you guys would have a bunch as well. So let me do that. Let me save those for you. Right. Okay. Okay. So I got all of my conspiracy theories from Reddit because that's probably the best place to get them from, to be honest. It was the easiest, most convenient place to find all of them in one spot. So I just want to put a little disclaimer out there that I got all these theories from Reddit, and none of which are my own thoughts or theories. So I do want to acknowledge the fact that I'm giving full transparency that these thoughts are 100% on Reddit, and you can find these claims on there. So no way am I claiming them to be my own. Whatever conspiracies that I found, I'm giving credit to the individuals and not myself. I just wanted to hear what your guys' thoughts were on the topic. So the first conspiracy theory that I found was from their username was 44035, and they said that I think the wealthy Ramseys got away with the murder of JonBenét. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the JonBenét Ramsey case, but a lot of people have speculated that her parents were the one to do it. She was a young girl, she went missing. I believe she was found in her parents' basement, or evidence of her being in their basement was found. So a lot of people do believe that her parents were the ones to do it. So I just wanted to know if you guys had any theories about that case as well. So I don't necessarily have any theories on this one just because I feel like there's so much speculation. But I was just curious if any of you guys had any thoughts on this case, and you're more than welcome to comment down below. A few of you guys already commented, I saw. um, but if you guys have any of your own theories, or if you have thoughts or comments about this specific theory, let me know. And then my second theory was found from This is Carcosa. Okay, so I see my first comment about the JonBenét Ramsey case from Trish, and she said, I do think they definitely were involved. I feel like a lot of people agree with that statement just because there was so much evidence found that they were potentially involved in this. So I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with you, but I'm not saying I 100% agree with you. But I'm much more on the side of I agree with you. There's just so much evidence to support that side of things. Um, Again, back to my next theory, is that Carol Baskin's husband, Don Lewis, was a drug trafficker and died/disappeared due to that fact, and she didn't murder him, although she knew what he was up to, and that if he went missing, he wouldn't be coming back. So a lot of people under this Reddit comment agreed or disagreed, but many of the points that were made in agreement of this were that many of the chains under this speculated that he was a master manipulator and that he purposefully surrounded himself with people that weren't very strong-willed or strong-minded so that he could manipulate them to do whatever he wanted them to, and that they wouldn't be reliable sources if they were investigated. So that's another one, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen Tiger King. It was big during, like, COVID times, so I feel like there was a lot of speculation around that case at that time, but I feel like that one's very on the fence post. I feel like that's probably one of the most 50-50 divided conspiracy theories because I feel like some people are just like, "Okay, she did it, case closed, whatever." But a lot of people, on the other hand, go way, way deeper into it. So that one I've always been curious about, especially because I never got into, like, the hype of watching Tiger King. So I'm curious to know if any of you guys have any more information on that one. Maybe I should watch the show, but I'm not a big TV show watcher, so I was definitely curious to see if anybody had any input on that one. Um, from the sounds of it on Reddit, most people did agree with this statement that was made. Um, I see a lot of you guys are still commenting on the JonBenét Ramsey one. Um, I feel like they were never 100% cleared on the suspicion. So, I don't know 100% to the date, but I feel like they were never cleared, but they never weren't cleared, and I think a part of the reason that they were kind of, like, on the fence post about not being cleared is that in a lot of true crime cases, when the parents are being investigated for, a kidnapping or a child going missing, and, um, once it hits, like, a certain point, the parents stop helping authorities, stop going to the media, or they only go to the media and never the police with any information, so they get more of, like, the limelight still and the fame, but they didn't necessarily stop communicating with the media and everything like that, and usually there's, like, an abrasive line, so they eventually stop. But I think that's why they're kind of, like, on the fence post of they're not 100% sure if they did it or not because they continue to still post, they continue to talk to media, they continue to, talk with authorities and stuff like that. Um, I do Trish says that she believes it was almost a money-making scheme, which on Reddit, a lot of people did agree with the statement you made. Um, most of you were saying you haven't watched Tiger King either. And again, with the JonBenét Ramsey, you watched a lot of media posts and they never showed expression or remorse or grief. Honestly, I feel like a lot of parents after a certain time point when their children have gone missing um and they've hit like a certain point, they do kind of stop sharing those emotions. So I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. They loved the attention most likely. Unfortunately, we do see that sometimes in true crime cases that the parents that are participating in the media more so than helping authorities to find their child, that's usually the case, and it's sad to say, but unfortunately, that's the sad truth. personally never watched Tiger King, but from what I've seen on social media, it definitely seemed like she might have killed her husband. Not that educated on the case, though. Understandable. I feel like I need to watch the show to really understand that. I just, again, not a big TV show person. I never really got into the show. Um, Definitely gonna have to look at possibly watching it though. Maybe that'll be one of the cases that I look at next. Um, I was wondering if anybody had, again, if you have anything to say, you're more than welcome to comment. Um, if anybody had any more cases that they want me to research, because a lot of the cases that I've done, I've been going off of what you guys have been asking me to do, which is awesome that you guys are commenting and giving me cases to research. I think that's really fun. But I'll jump into the next theory. I haven't looked into Jennifer Kesse. Is that how you say it? Jennifer Kess? I haven't looked into that one. I'll definitely do some research on that one and possibly make an episode on that if you're interested. The guy that killed his girlfriend in Louisiana and now it's a voodoo store. Was it like their house that he killed her at and now it's a voodoo store, or did he kill her in the voodoo store and they kept it a voodoo store? Oh, he killed her in their house and now it's a voodoo store. Okay. I feel like that place would be extremely haunted. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but I would be absolutely terrified to go there. I'll have to look into that one. Um, my next theory is that Trick Mind said something very weird happened with Brittany Murphy. I don't know what though, but the official story doesn't make sense. So I haven't heard of this one, which I thought was really cool to kind of elaborate on. But allegedly, her husband passed shortly after her from the exact same diseases, which was pneumonia and anemia. And I've never heard of this case. I was wondering if this is one that you guys would be interested in me researching, because a lot of people are very weary of the fact that they had both pneumonia and anemia and they died within like, I believe it was like 2 weeks of each other. So I was definitely curious to see if any of you guys knew anything about that case, or if you would want to see me possibly research that and do an episode for that. Let's see. This one was, Brittany's story is definitely sketchy. Love an episode. Okay. This one was from Cush Piglet. The case of Cosmo DiNardo, the Bucks County killer, happened about 10 minutes from where I live back in 2017. I kept up with it from the start until he was finally charged with his cousin. I strongly believe that the parents had something to do with it. I know others feel the same way, but there is just so much that leads back to them, even just helping assist Cosmo in the boys' deaths. I believe the parents of one of the boys had even tried to sue Cosmo's parents, but I'm not sure if it went through. My boyfriend actually delivered food to the crime scene, and I just remember hearing about how eerie the whole area felt and seeing the parents just watching the police search their property before it was known that there were bodies on the property. It was a very twisted, dark case, definitely worth looking into if you're unaware of it. I've never heard, well, I do know of the Bucks County killer, but I feel like this was not an unfamiliar conspiracy theory, because a lot of people under the chain talked about this. I don't necessarily know the nitty-gritty because I didn't research it, but I do know the Bucks County killer. I just don't know every little piece of evidence behind it. So I thought that one was kind of cool. I based a lot of these Reddit conspiracy theories off of ones that I would be interested in doing. that I thought you guys would also be interested in listening to. But that one was super cool because oftentimes parents do kind of know what's going on, especially if it's somebody a little bit younger. And even in like TV shows, which obviously aren't real, but a lot of the times the parents are aware of what's going on and they depict that in those TV shows. Again, not real, but I feel like it does happen more often than not. So reading that was just kind of solidifying that ideal. And a lot of people agreed with this theory. Not exactly sure how I feel about it. I would definitely have to depict a little bit more evidence, but I thought that one was super neat. Bucks County in PA. Yes, I believe it was in PA. Hi, John Luca. um, as far as the Brittany case, I do believe there's mold, but I'm not sure. I think the issue that people are having is that there was like a significant time, not a significant, but like if they were to get mold poisoning, I feel like they would have assumed that it would have happened closer in time frame than it would have. Like I feel like people are speculating that it would have taken less than 2 weeks for something to happen to her husband if that was the case. So I think that's kind of where the speculation is coming from on that one. Um let's see. So this next theory, I'm very familiar with. I know some other podcasts have covered this case. I really want to cover this case because it's super different and I thought it would be fun because it's not necessarily a cut and dry murder or like just a cut and dry true crime case because there's a really weird theory behind it. So I do want to cover this one eventually. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but their handle is deleted. Made a claim saying, "I fully believe Michael Peterson is innocent because Kathleen Peterson was killed by an owl." I don't know if it's a conspiracy or not in the general line of thinking, because to me it's clear. I'd convict the owl if I were on a jury in charge of convicting owls. LOL. So if you don't know this case, there was a case where a woman was viciously attacked and it looked to be like she had fallen down her stairs. However, it was never 100% clear whether or not her husband did it or if she was attacked by an owl. But there's a lot of evidence supporting what people call the owl theory. So, some examples of this supporting evidence is from David Rudolph. He does a really awesome job giving a bunch of evidence and talks about, again, what they call the owl theory. So he gives a lot of great examples on supporting evidence. So I just wanted to share a few of them with you guys, but it was proven that barrel owls lived in the area of the Petersons' home. There was blood splatter trails on the Petersons' sidewalk going into the house. And barrel owls are known to be aggressive, and there are many reports of them attacking people prior to this case. So, in the case, again, I don't want to go into too much detail because I do want to cover this eventually, but I believe she kind of lived in not a duplex. So their front entrance, you had to walk up the stairs, but she had fallen. It looked like she had fallen down the stairs because there's blood splatters on the wall. And so they originally thought that her husband potentially pushed her down the stairs because she was in like a very weird angle on the ground. And blood splatters on the wall, blood splatters on the trails going into their house. Like they had like a little brick path into their home. And I guess there's blood splatters everywhere. So police were convinced it was her husband, but there was just so much proof that it wasn't her husband and that it was an owl. But a lot of people were very skeptical of that thought because how could an owl kill somebody? So I think I think that one would be really cool to cover. It's super different. Again, goes against the whole cut and dry true crime case. Usually there's a perpetrator and a victim. That one is just a little bit different because most people wouldn't think of an owl as a perpetrator, but I thought that one would be super cool to cover eventually. Um, David Rudolph also has many, many more pieces of supporting evidence. So feel free to check that out on his website. Um, what makes them push the owl versus her husband? So I think the reason they pushed the thought of the owl is because there was just it was a very weird crime scene that the police had walked into. So what had happened was when her husband had called 911, he was very frantic on the phone, and unfortunately, when spouses or parents or whoever calls the police and they were usually the one who had done it, they're usually a lot more calm or they're like way, way over dramatic to kind of overcompensate. But police really truly believed that he had walked in on a crime scene. So I think that was the first thing. But it was really also how I think I'm trying to remember correctly. I didn't do the research on this one yet because I don't want to share too much on here. I do want to cover it eventually in an episode, but I believe it was like her back door, like her sliding glass door, or like maybe her front door to her steps or something was left open, and there was the blood splatters on the wall, the ones going in through the trail, like their little pathway into their house. I think because there was a bunch of barrel owls in that area. Um, I want to say he gave police the theory of the owl, but I could be mistaken. Somebody came up with the theory of an owl possibly doing this. I think it was because she had scratch marks on her, maybe on her face or on her arms or something like that. So they brought in that theory, and I think they kind of really ran with it just because there was so much like weird things going on with the case and so much evidence that supported that, but they're very abrasive in going forward with that theory because realistically, who has ever heard of a murderer owl? So I think they're just a little skeptical because how often is that heard of? So I think there is much, much more evidence supporting the owl theory, but they were just a little abrasive in committing to that theory. I did bring a theory to share with you guys. I thought would be super fun to discuss. So I don't know how many of you are caught up on the episodes that I've done, but one of my first episodes. Sorry, let me read this for you. Luke said, if the husband came up with the owl idea, I think he definitely could be guilty. Not impossible, but I just find it highly unlikely that she got attacked by an owl in her own home. So I think what their situation was that she had stumbled into the home. That's why the door was still open. And I can't remember if it was her front door and she stumbled just into the front door or if it was her back sliding glass door and she had fallen down the stairs. That's why there's blood splatter and stuff. But that's why the door was open, they believe, because they think the owl followed her into the house. Like it didn't come through a window or something, but it was already attacking her and she tried to get inside away from it. So she was already in the owl theory. She was already being attacked while she was going into the house, not just it came into the house and attacked her. Um again, I did bring a theory for you guys. It's on one of my first episodes, so, if you guys wanna take a look at that, it was, I believe, my first episode that I posted here on YouTube. Um, I think Peterson wrote derogatory articles about the police too, so I think they wanted to nail him. That could also be a possibility too. I like hearing you guys' theories on top of the theories. um, but this was from, I believe, my first episode that I posted here on YouTube. I did have an episode out on Spotify before I started uploading onto YouTube, but I did the Amy Lynn Bradley case, who disappeared on a cruise ship, and she still hasn't, unfortunately, been found. It's been years. Um, but my theory is that Amy is Jas. And I'll give you guys a little background if you're not caught up on my episodes. I don't want to give you too much because if you're interested, I would rather you guys go watch the episode. But I took this directly from that episode, and I said the next theory is that Jas is Amy, and she was taken by the two men that Carmichael had seen her with on the beach. In this theory, it is said that those two men took her with intentions of sex trafficking her. And if Jas is Amy, this is unfortunately a very plausible but sad possibility. With nearly 2,000 people on one large ship and few working cameras that could lead authorities to where Amy may have gone. Her being taken may sadly be easier than it should have been. So, to give you guys a little background knowledge, not too much. Amy was, I believe, 19 at the time. She was on a cruise with her family, super, super terrified of water. She was an amazing swimmer. She did swim lessons. She swam on a high school team. Super good swimmer, just scared of the open waters. She wanted nothing to do with like the railings, going up the stairs to get onto the cruise ship, but she disappeared, and a lot of people originally thought that she had possibly jumped or that something had happened, and her family really pushed the idea of this not being plausible because she had so much to live for. She was young. She was going to college to get her master's degree. She just got a puppy. She was talking about potentially moving out in a few years. She had so much going for her. So her family was really like, we don't think that this is plausible. And so there was a million theories for this case, especially because it's still open and it's been years and years since she first disappeared. But there have actually been sightings of her since she has disappeared, but nobody, when they would go to follow up with it, it would kind of be too late at that point. However, they did find a sex worker who matched to a T the progression image that authorities had drawn up of her, but there was no way to um, kind of follow the IP address to figure out where exactly she was located. And before they were able to try and figure out where the IP address was, first of all, it originally led them nowhere, but then when they tried to investigate it more, it kind of disappeared. So, and it was also hard for them to investigate because it was a cruise, so she was out of country. I think, I definitely think that there's a lot of evidence to accurately say Amy is Jas, but I think that one's still kind of up for discussion because it is an open case still. So I don't want to go too in depth with that because you never want to harm an active case with theories or thoughts. I definitely agree that I personally don't think she would have wandered off. Um, Another part to that case was that her and her brother had, with being heavily influenced by her brother and her family, she very much wanted to, like, stay in the room and stay away from the open waters and stuff. Her brother had convinced her to go to, like, the cruise's nightclub with him. So I think they said they're up until, like, somewhere between 1 and 3 in the morning, and she had spent a lot of time with one of the cruise band members, and they didn't get back till late. She fell asleep on the balcony. Her brother had seen her go on the balcony. She was a little drunk, a little intoxicated, but the balcony was about as close as she would get to the open waters. So, a lot of people speculated that he, the band member, had specifically chosen her to sex traffic, and that was proven not true. The band member had since really devoted himself to God. He completely changed the way things were, but since a lot of people speculated that to begin with, it did ruin his image, even though police had proven multiple times that he was not involved in it. He had a solid alibi, but because people did continue to speculate, it did ruin his career. And he's just tried to stay away from the limelight and everything involved in this case because it did really affect his image as an individual. So, but I do agree that she wouldn't have wandered. There was a point in time, so again, there was about 2,000 people on the ship, but there was a point in time where everybody was departing to go to the island. And that's when they had noticed she was missing, and the people, like the cruise workers, refused to close off the ship from people departing because the, like, management on the cruise thought that they would certainly find her, and they didn't want to worry other guests before they had left the boat or deferred them from coming back on the boat. So I know there was a lot of worry with the image of the cruise lines. So that case was one of the first cases I covered and super interesting. Everybody seemed to really enjoy that one a lot. So I noticed that cases that are either still open or are missing person cases, everybody seems to really enjoy. So I'll definitely be doing more of those. But if you guys have any true crime conspiracy theories, be my guest and comment. I would definitely like to hear what your guys' theories are, and we can discuss them as well. Or if you guys have any case recommendations, I'll be checking those out. Check out George Smith on a cruise line. I'll have to check that one out. I honestly, before I had started researching these, I thought it would be a lot harder to almost like, especially with Amy's case, disappear on like a cruise line, but he went missing on his honeymoon. Okay. So I thought that it would be so much harder to disappear or something to happen to you on a cruise line, but apparently it is not common, but it's almost a little bit easier in a way because there's a lot of, like, you're in open waters, you're between countries, you're between many different places. So there's a line of where does the laws for this country start and where does the laws for this country end. So there's a lot of like open space where it's hard to determine what laws to go by and who to contact if somebody were to go missing or something were to happen. So there was a lot of talks about that with the Amy Lynn Bradley case, for sure. All right. Does anybody have any more conspiracy theories they want to share? Let's see. All right. If you guys don't have any more theories, I just wanted to share a few with you guys to get started, see how you liked the whole live stream setting of everything. Um, I believe she waited till her family went to sleep. She met the guy that got her into a traffic issue, and now believes it's too late to reach out to her family. That's an interesting theory. Um, I feel like that could make sense. I understand the fact that like she was young and she could have possibly gotten into herself into trouble and worried what her parents might think. But I feel like now I think it's been, let me look this up for you guys. I don't want to give you the wrong information. Um I think it's been a few decades now. I did state it in my it's been 27 years. So I think at this point her family would just be happy to have her back home. I don't think they would necessarily be upset with her that she did something to get herself in trouble. Um, since you did Amy, I'd be really interested what you think about George. I'll definitely have to look at that one. I'll create a running list of episodes that you guys want me to research after this. So that'd definitely be that'd definitely be one I'd have to research. Everyone seems to really like the missing cases or the missing person cases or the open cases still. But if nobody else has any more suggestions or theories, I will probably end here. And I'm going to make this kind of a series on here where every once in a while I will talk about true crime conspiracy theories, see what you guys think, find some more for you guys to talk about. Um, although her feelings of being not herself would hold her back. Absolutely. Love this live. If you have more theories, would love to get another live. Absolutely, I'll do another live. You guys feel free. My comments are always open on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, anything. I do want to integrate into Apple Podcasts as well shortly. I know a lot of people have been looking to listen on Apple Podcasts, so I'm definitely going to integrate onto there soon as well. But if you guys liked the conspiracy theories, I can definitely do a live again soon on that. But I think that's all I have for you guys tonight. I'll definitely be researching some more cases. Cases are always out on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. unless there are technical issues like this week. With the weather and everything being so crazy, I've been in and out of power for the past couple days. So that's why I did get a little delayed this week. But going forward, everything should be on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Spotify, YouTube, and of course, soon Apple Podcasts. But I think that's it for now. So I'm going to hop off. But thank you guys. Have a good night. Bye.